We are on day 91. You did that. You did that. You did that. Day 91, right? And we are celebrating the personal commitment to liberation, right? Nope, that was yesterday. Oh my God. Am I on 92? You guys, listen to that. Look, my brain, it was just stuck sitting on yesterday's. So I just assumed until I started reading. And I love that for us. It's wonderful to have you here too, my love. All right. So we are on day 92, and I'm pretty sure I wrote that on the thing. But anyway, here we are. Day 92, sharing our stories, lessons from the journey. Yes, because yesterday I had left off saying how everybody's story matters from 8 to 80, right? One of the ways I incorporate this into my home is usually at breakfast. This is why I do miss having some more time. I'll ask, what did you dream about last night? And they'll tell me and they'll share, and it becomes their own story. And it's really, really real. Like, oh, were you? Tiffany was like, I was just about to say that. Girl, I was like, oh no, that's not the day, bro. Or, a way to do this with children, any children, it doesn't have to be your own. When they draw a picture, tell them to tell you a story, right? Those things, one, they get to share. It's why play therapy is so effective for children, but they get to create, weave, begin. Ask your elders, right? In your family, in your town, in your neighborhood, volunteer somewhere, and really just talk to people. Just talk to people. Like I said, for years I was on TikTok, and I people were like, "You got a book to recommend?" Mm-mm. I don't want you to read anymore. I want you to talk to people. I don't want you to do that. I want you to have conversations with people. Bring yourselves to the table. Bring your own stories, your legacies, your liberation work. Tell me how you survived, Tell me how you are 70 years old and you move through all these iterations, the things that you've seen. What sustained you? What kept you? What did you learn? What did you wish that you would do better? All of these things are liberation lessons, right? If you are a paid subscriber, on Saturdays, that is a part of the bonus, right? It's a liberation lesson every Saturday. But having these conversations with people are also liberation lessons, right? Having the discussion just this morning where I'm talking about how, I'm recognizing my kids' bodies changing, moving into summer bodies, right? Again, we're nature, it's cyclical. So they don't want to go to bed. It was 8 o'clock in the winter feels different than 8 o'clock in the springtime, right? Even if it's gloomy, the sun is still bright ish, things are still alive. 8 o'clock in the fall and the winter, things were night 2 hours ago. Like, we are fighting to stay awake at 8 o'clock at night. Like, I can't do it. So like just those things are lessons, right? How do you do that? How do you get a circadian rhythm? I've told you guys before. I mean, I need structure because I think it's very beneficial for my brain, and just in general. But it can't be too rigid, and I can't do alarms or times or any of those sorts of things. So that would be my own liberation lesson, right? Like how do you keep a rhythm of that sort? What does that look like? Well, it looks like when we wake up, we do certain things, right? Just so you can be in the rhythm. When you wake up, if you don't want to be doom scrolling as soon as you wake up, plug your phone in the living room. That's a liberation lesson. You're liberating yourself from the doom scrolling. Maybe you'll embrace a new habit, right? Before you get to that phone, you got to pass your bathroom. So you're in your bathroom, you'll wash your face, you'll brush your teeth, you'll do whatever it needs to be done. Then you'll walk out and you'll be like, oh shit, look, my treadmill's there. Maybe I'll walk for 5 minutes. Then you're going to go grab your phone, make your coffee or whatever. But those little things matter. So talking with people, no matter how mundane it is, if we meet people with curiosity, if we meet people instead of feeling like the authority or enacting a hierarchy, right? That pyramid scheme that comes naturally with supremacy culture. If we meet people with curiosity, if we consistently remain teachable, you will find so many liberation lessons, like even like I said, from 8 to 80. My Shady Baby has stories, and I'm like, you know what? That's a good idea. I'm gonna give that a try, right? And it's worked. I can't think of anything directly, but I have remembered when she said something, and it's very matter of fact. Like, well, if you do it this way, this is how it'll work. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to give that a shot. So when we think about liberation lessons and our stories, think about it in that sort of way, right? Every single act in our daily lives can be an act towards liberation. And if, in fact, you align with that and you believe that to be true, then that means that your stories are lessons, right? Because you're living this life. And even if it did not work out the way you wanted to, that becomes a lesson. If it did, that becomes a lesson. So it all gets to be lessons on your journey to liberation, which is lifelong. So here we go. Good morning. Day 92, sharing our stories, lessons from the journey. 3 talking points today. 1, stories inspire and sustain movements, right? I love to hear what people have done. I want to know, right? And I could still I can still this is not to bypass anything, right? I could turn around and have a conversation with someone who's 60 and be like, yeah, but like, how did you deal with the homophobia? I could still challenge. How did you deal with the racism? How did you deal with the patriarchy? I could still challenge the system of oppression and listen, and it still becomes a lesson. Well, you know what? Maybe I didn't do as well as I would have liked to do, but now I'm here to do this work. Yesterday, we had somebody who joined us who was like, I'm 70 and I'm back, baby. I'm back to my activism. It's just going to look different. Okay. I love that. What did you learn along the way, right? What there's a point in time with some people where we just say, hey, let's put a pin in this person or this group's um, liberation or freedom or rights or whatever. And while we move forward with this other one, would you do something different? Those are important stories, right? To listen to. So, and they do sustain the movement. 2, vulnerability in storytelling builds connection, right? If you are just telling that story, like I gave an example, or I've talked about my own life where I was not always this person. I didn't always know what redlining was. I was Christian and in an active way. Um, I was such a Christian that means I was actively harmful to various groups, right? Like I shared with you guys, where there's no way to be an active Christian and not be upholding anti-Semitism or homophobia, right? Like you cannot, it's really difficult, put it that way, because I know that there are more progressive Christian groups now, but at the core tenets of it, right? The whole idea of love the sinner but hate the sin in and of itself is like, you're saying someone's existence is a sin that could be harmful, right? So being able to show up and be vulnerable and say, you know what, I didn't know these things or I didn't know them to the depth that I do. And just again, remaining teachable, getting curious, allow yourself to be able to pivot, do that accountability, own it. Apologize if necessary, or if you really truthfully feel it, and look for where the repair can happen, where the restoration can happen. There will be some people that maybe I harmed and didn't realize that may not ever feel safe with me, right? And I could be willing, but that doesn't mean that repair is always possible. And that comes back to the consent. Do you see how it all falls into place? Yes, I love that for us. Okay. So, 3, collective storytelling preserves history. So when you think of, my sibling-in-law is so good with keeping family history, right? And that's because when everybody's around telling the stories, right? Like their mom is telling a story or their brother. Hell, I've been in this family almost 20 years. I'm telling a story. It becomes these collection points for them, right? Grandma used to tell a story, Uncle Chauncey, whatever is going on, it builds the history, right? And it matters. And so, I mean, they're an amazing artist if you choose to follow them at Sunday in Bloom on Instagram. And they are doing a compilation of family history in that sort of way. But again, it goes back to your history. Your family's history is super important. And even if you are a white body person, it's still important. You don't need to shy away from it. You need to sit with it, sit with the grief, right? Sit with what was lost for you, sit with how maybe there's no maybe, but the harm, right, that systems of whiteness have caused, you could sit with all of that and you could still celebrate some of the joy, right, in the stories, the gatherings, the get-togethers, the holidays, and or we talked about that last week, right? Celebrating the joy and the grief, all of it in the same place. So I hope you could see how it's like kind of weaving together, right? That storytelling, that thread is going, it's all you, it's all valid, it's all important, it's all necessary for liberation. So grab some coffee. You can grab your water and we'll get in. Or your coffee or your hot drink, whatever you got going on. Sip it, nourish your body, take a breath. I really need, I need a coffee sponsorship. Okay, so let's start. Day 92, sharing our stories, lessons from the journey. One, stories inspire and sustain movements. Sharing stories of growth, challenges, and breakthroughs helps sustain movements by inspiring others and reinforcing collective memory. As an example, civil rights leaders often share personal stories to connect with and mobilize their communities. So I ask you, what story from your liberation journey could inspire or guide others? And all of it matters. All of it matters. When we are talking about liberation work, it is not simply pinholed to anti racism. I know many of you came into this journey learning about anti racism, and thank you. Love that. We must expand. Taylor says coffee is dripping slow, reset needed, and love the support. I love that for you. Yes, go do that. Take care of yourselves in the best way, right? So, when we're talking about that and mobilizing the communities, we have to recognize that we're connected, right? And our personal stories matter. It does. It does. It does. It does. I'm not concerned with what anybody says. Like, again, supremacy culture disconnects us from land, self, and others, right? Our community. So it tells you your story doesn't matter. That's not important. Be quiet. And that indoctrination starts with childism, right? It starts at the very beginning. It starts with those thought terminating cliches. And yes, we will be doing a series of those after our 100 days. Thought terminating cliches, children should be seen and not heard. That one alone. So you learn that from the beginning, your voice, your story does not matter, right? And then depending how you are going to be socialized in this world, if you are AFAB or AMAB, if you are going to be socialized in this world as a man, that changes how your stories are told. As a woman, that changes. As a white woman, as a white man, as a white woman that looks a certain way, as a white man that looks a certain way, built a certain way, disabled, not queer, not all of those things start coming into play. And we haven't even gotten into the marginalization of race, right? So we learn over and over and over and over again that our stories don't matter for whatever reason and for whatever your marginalization is, right? And even if you are top tier oppressor, your stories don't matter because shut up and go to work. Do the work of capitalism. If you are a white man, you should be shutting up and doing the job of providing. Nobody wants to hear your stories. You got work to do, right? You have to create the provision for your family, secure that. And if you are a top tier white woman oppressor, right? Shut up and be nice. Take care of that provider. It's all of us, all of us. And when we realize that, the more we are wrapped into that recognition that we are all connected and all of these stories matter. And then you start learning where to place them because sometimes those stories do not matter in Blackness. You're welcome. Uh, but they do matter when we are being intentional about having those intersectional communities, right? Having spaces where we are all seen and heard, having spaces where we are sitting down and saying, let's dismantle this shit show. All voices matter, all money in. That's the thing that always comes to my mind, right? Like all money in all the time. Like, let's go. What are we doing? I want to hear what you went through. Okay. So then we know it's more information, right? On how to dismantle this shit show, right? If we think the more we, my pushback on certain things is like the more that we really believe, Mike, where we have this discussion on privilege versus leverage, the more we believe that it's a privilege to be white, the less likely we are to hear stories, the less likely white body people are for you guys to embrace the trauma and the grief of becoming white. That's why I ask, who were you before you were white? Because that is what we need to get to, right? That's going to build your solidarity. That's going to start your unraveling. And when you recognize that there's no privilege in being white, because being white means you have no culture, no connection, no community. And it really, the only thing that holds it together is power over others. Like that's it. That's all that holds whiteness together. Power over others, including other white body people. So once you start recognizing now it's leverage like hell, right? It's if you're white, thin, cis presenting, hetero, able bodied, blonde, blue eyed, thin, narrow features. Oh, baby. You can leverage the hell out of that, right? Because it's a performance of what you can do. So, this is how white women get caught up, and it's so difficult to get out because it's your survival to do those sorts of things. But even those stories matter. Those stories matter. How much it took from you to perform to become the high level oppressor that you happen to be. Those stories matter. And those stories matter not only in your own accountability, but in your own liberation journey for recognizing it and seeing how harmful it was for you and how it actually disconnected you from your own mother, your own sisters, your own children, your other community members, and damn sure everybody outside of whiteness. You know what I'm saying? So take another breath. That was intense. I'm going to take another sip of coffee. 2, vulnerability in story building builds connection. I can come on here and I could sell you a dream. This is social media. Like people are doing it all the time. America is a business. And I could market to you this dream of how I've always had my whole entire life together. You don't know me. And I could just not share anything else that's going on. And as far as you guys would know, I could be a happily married woman with 3 beautiful children. And this is me, and I've always been this person, right? Because supremacy culture sets you up to believe in perfectionism and individualism, and right? So that I would become this embodiment of rugged individualism and bootstrapping, and look at all the opportunities that America has given me, and I'm super duper amazing, and all of those stuff. And the truth is I'm on my second marriage. I got 4 kids. One of them don't talk to me. I'm disabled. I did not know a lot of the shit that I know, and like I fuck up because I'm human, right? And having that vulnerability, people actually getting to know me, not the persona, not this idea, not Desiree B. Stevens, the moniker, but just me, just Des, changes things because it makes me human. And when I allow myself to be human, because that's what it is. Because if I have to come on here and fucking tap dance for you, I'm not allowing myself to be human. And I'm not doing that. I'm not harming myself. I'm going to show up fully me. Sometimes I'm going to be in pajamas. Sometimes I'm going to be fancy. Every single time I'm going to be cute. Okay. So when I do that, it's my own offering, right? Again, inner world, outer world. It is my offering to you. Show up the same way, right? Like come as you are in church really was supposed to be come as you are. Tiffany says, and this is why we appreciate you. And I appreciate you. Thank you. So like this gift is your humanity. What I'm offering, what I am saying we need to get back in touch with is your own humanity. And so when we tell our stories in this sort of way, in a very real, in a very vulnerable way, it needs to happen for that connection. And in order for people to do that, and it goes way back to the beginning lessons, right? Of creating brave spaces. How do we create brave spaces? Safe spaces because people understand the language safe. And I'm thankful for Pam Iverson in my brain has coined, brave spaces. In order to have a safe space, it has to be a brave space. In order to be brave, you have to be vulnerable. In order to be vulnerable, it has to be safe. Are you getting it? It all falls into each other. Lisa says, you are authentically you. I am. Oh my God. Everywhere I go, there I am, right? That used to be one of those things that people would use against others. But I took it and like, yes, everywhere I go, there I am. Right. So you get to take that however you want on your own journey, right? Whether you are suffering, whether it's awful, whether it's beautiful, but everywhere you go, there you are. So you get to choose the who you are, right? And I want that for you. That is that liberation journey. I want you to choose. I do not want supremacy culture to tell you who you are because that is what it does. It ascribes everything. It ascribes gender, religion, where you should live, how you should speak, all of the things. All of you guys would never know. Let me be very clear. I've told myself my own little personal act of protest. I could have 2 fucking PhDs and you guys would never know. You wouldn't. How will they know? How will they know? You'd never know. You'd never know. I want you to trust your own self, your own inner knowing, your personal gnosis, and learn how to trust where you should be and where you should not be. And it should not have to come with letters or affiliations or any of those things. You know, because before those things were a thing, and I want us to get back to that. Kaylin says, I love the idea of brave spaces. It feels like so much more than safe. Yeah, because safe bypasses a lot of shit. Like I've been in safe spaces and I'm like, safe for who? Because that safety is going to center something. And that something is quite literally whiteness, right? Because it is the default. I'm not even saying it's always intentional. It's because it's the default. Right. So that safety is always, oh, well, we can't talk about, this, that, and the other thing. And like, I fucking hate trigger warnings. I've never been, in any of my groups, it is not a demand, right? Like, it is something it's a courtesy you can offer to somebody else. And I'm going to tell you why trigger warnings and safe spaces activate me is because, again, whiteness being the default, people will pour out Black pain and trauma with no regard. They will just hear the story of some more state sanctioned violence. And I'm like, I don't want to scroll my feed and see that. I don't want to go into a group and see, I don't want to see it. I live it in my mind. I question every fucking day if my son is safe outside playing. I hate letting him go ride his bike in his own neighborhood. You understand? That is the truth of what we live daily, right? Like hoping something as simple as, yes, in 2025, my son makes it back from a bike ride in his own fucking neighborhood that he's grown up in. So like those safe spaces, those trigger warnings do not actually censor the most vulnerable population, wherever that may be within your sphere. And brave spaces invite curiosity. Brave spaces, when I say something like that, allow you to say, but why, Des? It's 2025. It's not the same as it used to be. And while that makes my ass itch, it opens up a conversation. It opens up your willingness to learn, to hear my story, to connect, to have that liberation journey together. So, yes, for me, I am big. I will let anybody know if you're in a space with me, it's a brave space. So, get okay with being wrong, ask the question, do the things, just be willing to sit with it. And then if you're not, you are not safe. Now, I could say, you're not safe and you don't need it, you can't be here, right? Because I'm not going to do all of this, share with you, be vulnerable, and you want to still tell me that that's not true. Now you're not honoring my lived experience. You're not respecting my vulnerability, and you turn this into, like a trauma porn kind of thing, and you are not safe for me. So you have to not be near me, right? Because those are my boundaries. Boundaries are for me, keeps me safe, right? Fences. Like you're a property line, as much as, like, and borders and property lines and all the other shit. As we currently stand, good fences make great neighbors. There we go. So there you go. I kind of did that, but I'm still going to come back to my talking point. Vulnerability and story building builds connections. Sharing personal experiences, including failures and challenges, creates spaces for genuine connection and collective learning. As an example, an organizer who shares a story of burnout and recovery can help others understand the importance of rest. The reason why I put the and is because I want you guys to start embracing the yes and, the and or, the and, but maybe yes, no. Like all of it, right? Bringing all of that into it, right? Because often in very much white centered spaces and majority white spaces, shit becomes a trauma bond and there are no actionable steps. Like it's just like, oh, I'm so tired. And that's fair. Great. Love this vent session. How did you recover from being burnt out? How did you get back in the game? How did you recommit? Remember the other day we were talking about commitments. Did you do your root work? Did you do your root work? Did you reflect? Did you observe what's happening? What are you doing? What's the next step to get back into the game, right? So there's space for all of it, but that does not often happen in spaces that are white centric because it's not something that is taught inside of whiteness. Right, because there's not a restorative justice process inside of whiteness. There's perfectionism, there's individualism, there's bootstrapping, there's all of this. So even with your healing, you guys will bootstrap your healing, and I'm like, mm-mm, no, 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 no. We're gonna sit. We can acknowledge that you were burned out. Okay. So what made you burn out? What could you do next time? How could we support you in that? All of those things are restorative, right? Restoration is what that idea is. So I gave you a reflection. I said, how can you practice vulnerability when sharing your story, right? I'm going to double down on you need to be in a brave space, right? We're not going to just start sharing stories if you're not sure how somebody is going to respond, right? This is not church and you're being forced to testify on an altar. You need to feel safe. You need to feel okay to be vulnerable. You need to know that that space will not only hold you, but gently correct you if it's harmful and still see you and hold you accountable. Because again, accountability is love in action for me. 3, Collective storytelling preserves history. I'm going to sip some coffee. You sip on something too. This coffee was super good this morning. Usually, I try not to interrupt your guys' lesson and sip the coffee, but it's quite delicious. I think I could do coffee ASMR. Anywho, we're back. Three, collective storytelling preserves history. Documenting community stories ensures that future generations have access to knowledge, strategy, and inspiration from past movements, right? And I think that that's so important. As you guys can see, a lot of my moving to Substack was that I was like, I need a place because I love TikTok. This is not I don't enjoy TikTok, but it's energetically, right? When we're talking about things, we always talk, I come back to that sacred container. And Michelle brought that to my attention. But all magic, spell work, whatever energy, prayers, however you want to, all things need a container. Something to hold it, something sacred. And TikTok felt like it's just out there, right? Like I just put it out there and it's like, because I'll have this meaningful engagement like I'm having now, and somebody will see one comment and not do the labor of clicking tiny little fingers, tapping screens, and going all the way back to the beginning. Right. Where this space gives me that place to put things into a container, into the article, having those, actionable steps, having the acronyms. And this is, even if you don't think you have a movement, right? Even if this doesn't go any further than us right here, it's still legacy work, right? It's still turning around and saying, here, this is the history of the work that you and I have done together. And even if it's not Oprah level famous, if it's impacted your life, it's important. It reminds you that your stories matter. It reminds you that, you know what, I did this and it worked for me. And maybe it would work for you. And there's a container where it's all held. And you could access that knowledge. You could access those strategies, right? You could turn around and say, you know what? I'm going to go back to day 33 because there is something in there, right? And we could be 7 months from now, but you'll go back to day 33 and be like, I need to revisit that. That's that. That's what that is, right? That's that collective storytelling. Going back. The reason why I read people's comments, so you could hear that on the replay too, because you don't see the comments on the replay. So you could see, what did somebody ask? What did someone say? What was the feedback? What was happening in that moment, right? What was this share? What was this tell? All of those things are super important. Bring that into your homes. Bring that into your workspaces, right? If you think about if you've been a part of anything, there's always a secretary to take minutes. It's the same thing. It's preserving the history of that meeting, right? It's preserving the history of that gathering. Same, right? If you sit down and, I've talked to you guys about our family agreements that we have. If you guys are sitting down, take the notes. Take the notes. What did you say? What did you agree to? All of that matters, right? And we go back to that. And it makes it so much easier. Hey, you agreed to it. It's why all of these websites have terms and conditions, because you may not read them because they're long as hell and legalese. But if you go up against them, they know what they are. Well, you signed, you agreed, right? You made an agreement. You have to honor that agreement. So those things kind of help, and it preserves the history of our communication. So I gave an example. Community oral history projects capture stories of resilience, survival, and truth. And that is so important because we move away from our oral traditions when you see Christianization and colonization comes. When Christianization comes, it strips all of the ancient world's practices, right? We all had a spiritual practice. We all are indigenous to somewhere. But when Christianization comes along, it strips all of that and creates an arc, and it gives everybody the same story. We all, Jesus died for all of our sins. All, right? Maybe he didn't like some people. He was willing to die for everybody, even the folks he don't like. Uh, and did he die? Or was he murdered? Right? Like there's these distinctions, these conversations. But when you're talking about colonization and Christianization, it gives you that one arc story that applies to everyone. And then it strips you of your own indigenous knowledge and your own storytelling. And then here, boom. It's like, one of those 15 pillars is worship of the written word. So here's this Bible, here's this book. And when they feel fit, they change it, right? It's been changed, it's been altered. And then they want to tell you that it's God breathed. But this one story has held us all captive for 2,000 something years. And it has quite literally been what they used to wage war from the Crusades to prayer in schools in 2025. Like this is that one story, that one worshiping of the written word through that pillar in and of itself. So just think about how strong these pillars are. Please learn them, get them, print them up, tattoo them on your body. If you think about that one pillar, worship of the written word, has been able to last 2,000 odd years. What the hell is this? 2,025 years. That's a long time. That's a major stronghold that needs to be broken when you're doing these things and telling our stories, right? No, I'm going to tell you. You're going to listen to the indigenous of this land, and even that's a broad term. I want you to listen to the Cree people of their land, their territory, and then what happened with a different tribe and another tribe, and all of those things matter. And then even the stories of the different people, because they're all experiencing it differently, they matter, right? And your history book is one person's version of that. And usually it's the oppressor's version, right? If you guys can turn around and see that women's history has been altered through patriarchy, then you know the world's history has been altered through Christianization. It's that simple. This is not fucking rocket science here, guys. I'm saying 1 + 1 = 2. And that's it. If you are a white bodied woman and you recognize that the patriarchy has been able to erase the history of white women's contributions to the world, then you damn sure know that they've erased ours and any other non white bodied person. This is super simple. This is not difficult. So when we bring that back, when we believe each other's stories and not in the like that moniker or believe this, believe that. But when we really truthfully sit and connect with each other and listen to each other's stories, you bring that back. You bring that tradition back. You are calling it forth. Like, you know what? I know that I have this book. I know that I have learned this and learned this in a certain type of way, but it's not true. That shifts things, right? What we're seeking are small paradigm shifts that just turn around and say, you know what, I can no longer agree with what's going on. Like it's not going to be huge. It's going to be a small thing. It's going to be an awakening, an awareness, a reckoning that's going to shift your entire way of thinking and being. And it doesn't take much. It just takes you being curious, remaining teachable, et cetera, et cetera. Taylor says, don't get me started on the bias of the Bible. Oh, yeah. Like, oh, God. Yeah, please don't. Like, we could do this. Christianization is the first colonization, right? And like I said, like in the December series, I was like, I want to wish you an astrological Christmas. And I was like, let's go from the arc of I did a birth chart for Christianity. It was very fun. Anyway, I went from the time of Christianity's birth, which is with Constantine, all the way to Project 2025. And you could really just see how it was co-opted and brought this global harm that we are all sitting with now. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot there. Anyway, because you're not going to do that to me today. You're not going to do that to me today. No, no, no. I have other things to do. And I love you guys, but I do. All right. So as a reflection, I said, how can you participate in documenting or sharing the stories of your community? I think that is so important. It's going to matter. It's going to matter. It's going to matter to future generations. It's going to matter to people here, right? Like 60K and below, which is VIX, they have a group, Eager. I'm not going to remember that. And this is not because it's dismissive. It's just because I have all my own acronyms I could barely remember. But it's like European Americans Gathering. VIX, if you're here, please say it. I'll Google it whilst I'm here so I don't screw that up. Eager community. But when you're sitting down and this is a new space that has come together, right? Oh, see, I said that all wrong. Oh my God. European Americans growing, engaging, and reconditioning. That is what eager stands for, right? So if they are writing what they're talking about, what they're doing, even if it's not going to be generational, new people that join know what they've been doing, the work that they've been talking about, they have a signal group. I'm in the signal group, a bunch of other educators. Taz is in there. Royal Star is in there. There's a few people in there, but those are the ones that just stick to my mind. These things matter. right? And too often supremacy culture, it goes right back to that celebration of, of joys and sacred grief. They want you to mourn these great things and they want you to celebrate these great things, but they do not allow you to mourn the small, the mundane, right? They don't allow you to celebrate, I have good coffee this morning. Like I want all of those things to happen. So the saying goes is that too many people play way too small, like it doesn't matter, or this community is just getting started. I don't give a shit. It matters. Your story matters. Your voice matters. Make sure you are learning the places and spaces to share your story. Make sure that you are cultivating these brave spaces by allowing vulnerability, by being safe, learning the difference between calling in, come and sit with me, and calling out. Like that in and of itself. Calling in says, come here, come here, come here. Sit down, pumpkin. Okay. Let me talk to you because that was absolutely fucking insane what you just said and or did. Right. Calling out is very supremacist culture, right? Supremacy culture is always about ousting, whether it's excommunication from the church. I am 46 years old and I was married the first time and I was married as a Catholic. So it was one of my sacraments. And I recall that divorce, I was like, I'm going to be excommunicated from the church. I'm not going to be allowed to go to church. I was in 2005, we separated. So you think about it in that sort of way, right? Like how long does that ousting last? Those principles of pushing out. That is what supremacy culture does. It makes you recognize how much that out, right? If you don't do the things, you get kicked out of your home, kicked out of your church, kicked out of your community. That's a very supremacy culture way. So calling someone out is not the same as calling them in. I want you guys to practice that. And that's how you're going to cultivate these brave spaces. That's how you're going to make it comfortable for people to tell their stories. That's how you're going to build that legacy of your liberation work to share it forward. This is what we're doing. We make it a practice to call people in. We make it a practice to believe your stories. We also make it a practice to challenge you, to ask deeper questions, to bring in things that you may not have seen, and we hold you accountable. All of those things kind of come together. So we are at 10:11. You guys are so awesome with the time that you give me. And I deeply appreciate that because I really try to honor time boundaries and I always go over. So I am super thankful. But we're going to wrap it right here. Day 92, sharing our stories, lessons from the journey. 3 points. 1, stories inspire and sustain movements. They matter. Please tell them. 2, vulnerability in story building builds connections, and you should be in a brave and safe space in order to be vulnerable. 3, collective storytelling preserves history. All voices in. Every single voice matters because it is a part of the journey. It is a part of the journey. Supremacy culture gives us monolithic cultures. So if I go and I take a walk, and I'm talking about from my backyard to my mailbox, let's keep this in scope. How many other living beings are having an experience? Me walking to my mailbox, maybe I encountered a cat. But under my feet was how much life happening. Did the ants experience me walking to the mailbox the same way I did? I didn't bring any harm to them, right? I was walking to my fucking mailbox, but I probably crushed a couple of worlds like on my way to the mailbox. It could be as simple as just that, right? Thinking about that. So imagine if we incorporated the earth story into our stories and then this person's story into our story. And just that, now that walk from my backyard to the mailbox is a different story. It's a fuller story. It's a more embodied experience. It is a more truth telling story. It matters. It matters. Dinah says, I'm in California and I'm so glad I woke up to hear you. I'm so glad you did too, Dinah. And I hope you come back. We're here every day at 9:30 Eastern. Sally says, I think the saying goes, when you lose an elder, it's like a library burning down. Ooh. Listen, now I'm going to cry. Listen, perimenopause, and it's about that time. So let me gather myself. Okay, so listen, my parents and my grandparents on both sides are dead. So I know that viscerally. Like, I can't confirm anything, right? I can't be like, oh, so when did you say I walked? What shit? What were my first words? Like, I gotta remember whatever I had already been given, right? I don't have the benefit of that immediacy, right? Like of my own personal journey. I remember a lot, and my family was really big about chatting and ha 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 and telling the stories, but there is just so much. So, yes, when you think about that personally, and then when you turn around, like, right, your personal journey, your personal liberation journey is tied to the collective. So I'm going to tell you one last story. Damn it, you guys always bring me back in. I was living in England and I started on my genealogy journey. And so my dad is 20 years younger than his siblings. And they were from one set of marriage, and my dad was from a separate relationship after that one was over with a 20-year age gap. But I was stationed, well, I wasn't stationed, but my husband was stationed in Mildenhall, England. And I knew that my Uncle William had been stationed there too, which I thought was really cool. I had found that out. And we've been vaguely, we go in and out of touch over the years. Or one have you may be dead by now, and I wouldn't know. But anyway, I go and I'm like, ooh, let me find out some stuff about my grandma, right? I know that she's Gullah. I know that we're from the Carolinas, et cetera, et cetera. And I call these people. And they're like, yeah, so we didn't keep records on Black people until the 70s. And I'm like, what? So while I am sitting and I can mourn my own personal stories being lost because of the loss of life in my own family, then when I start thinking beyond myself, right? Like what we said yesterday, your personal liberation journey is connected to the collective liberation. This fucker told me I was 20 something years old to go look in the slave records for my grandmother who was born in 1910. So there's so much history that is lost, right? And then it gets replaced with what for Black people, because white supremacy impacts Black people. And when I say Black, I'm a gatekeeper of Black, I mean Black American. Um, White supremacy in this land, in the United States of America, how it impacts Black people, Black Americans, is losing our stories. So, our stories are super important because many of us still have a family Bible where our grandparents or great grandparents wrote that, right? Like, oh, daughter of, son of, this, that, and the other thing. But I lost that because my grandma is no longer alive. So that family Bible that would most likely have been with my grandmother very specifically because she's from, the Carolinas and she's Gullah, and that was very much a record keeping of our own, right? You would turn around and be like, okay, I don't have that access, but that is how my personal journey is the collective journey as well. For white body people, right? Because I love that. Thank you for the broken hearts. Thank you for the anger. But don't co-opt my story for white body people. Now I'm going to tell you about my mom's side of the family. Okay. My cousin, my mom is good about the genealogy on my mom's side of the family. And she did it like through the LDS because at one point in time she converted to Mormonism. We'll unpack that a whole other time. Okay. Because that goes into stories of community and how people conform, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, so I carried on doing that. And then when my mom died, a cousin from Ireland reached out and gave us all of my aunt did not know her grandmother's name because that's that silent generation, right? My grandmother left Ireland and maybe called home once or twice. It was not fucking FaceTime. Folks did not have money to go back and fly back and forth. People were fleeing for their lives, wars, famines, whatever. People died. People left behind. And if you got here to this country, so my grandmother's name was Sarah McSherry, but we are still unsure if it's Mick or Mac. We didn't know if it was SHE or SHA. This is what I mean about who were you before you were white. Because this culture of supremacy strips it, right? And for Black people, yes, right? Yes. But I want you to remember to hold the yes and. So thank you for feeling with me, but that I don't want no sympathy. I don't want pity, right? I want empathy. And empathy is something you embody because it's something you experience too. And you have an ancestral knowing in your white body that that's true. Because what white people had to do in order to survive is one, turn their backs against Black people and assimilate. And the process of assimilation for white body people is Anglicization. I might have said that word wrong. In my head, it worked. Out of my mouth, does not sound right. But they anglicize the names, right? Like, you guys have no ethnic names. My kids have more ethnic names than most Irish American white body people, right? My kids' names are, well, not my eldest, but these three: Erin, which quite literally means Ireland, Kieran, which means the black one, because I'm a rebel, and Morrigan. It's not Morgan, it's Morrigan. She is named after the Celtic goddess. But that is my own reclamation, right? And white body people left behind ethnic names, left behind their last names. They were changed because it just didn't sound white enough. That's what I mean. Who were you before you were white? You will not meet too many Tchaikovskys in the United States of America, right? You're not going to have a Ludwig anywhere. And that is how it's harmed you. And that is the work I want you guys as white body people to sit with, is that, yes, thank you. Love that you can feel that pain for me. I appreciate that. That is a sharing, right? But and when you're thinking about exchange, right? This is why white people cannot do cultural exchange, because you don't have a culture to give in order to receive. So you just take. But when we're talking about empathy being embodied, when we're here in this moment telling stories, that was my story, my vulnerability. I want you to have one back. And I just gave it to you. What's your grandmother, your great grandmother's name? My family, my mother and her two sisters did not even know their grandmother's name. It's Mary Kate, by the way. Now we know. And we have pictures. And well, my mother died not knowing. My aunt knows. So did my Aunt Mary. But that is the way that whiteness strips things from white body people as well. And you got to sit with that. And you have to learn those stories. And you have to trust those stories. Kate says, my great grandmother and her sister were put on an orphan train at ages 8 and 10. They were Irish orphans and separated in different cities along the way, one in the Finger Lakes and one in I guess, West New York. Yes, look up Boxcar Kids, right? When we're doing this work, for you guys, it's so much further. So it sounds absurd. And with those thought terminating cliches of get over it. But whiteness is cognitive dissonance because it'll be get over it to us. Never forget for 9/11. Wait. No, never forget what happened to you. Never forget how you became white. When you can start remembering, the parentheses around the re, right? And member is to put things together, right? When you're a member of a club, members of your body, when you start doing those internal works, those internal family systems within yourself, remember who you were before you were white. Remember how you got that name. Remember those children. Remember the boxcar kids. Remember the thousands years war against white body people from white body people. That is how you're going to find your empathy in this. It becomes embodied. We don't need you in the work with sympathy. That shit runs out. You will not have longevity. We talked about longevity and sustainability and activism. You cannot ever be more mad about racism than we are. It's crazy. You don't need to co-opt our anger about racism. You are not more upset about racism. Don't come talking to Black people about racism. You're never going to be more upset about racism than we are. That's insanity. White women, you will understand this from this point of there's no way a white man is going to be more mad about the patriarchy than you are. And because you've been harmed by it in a different way. So sit with all of those things and recognize that. Look at that. Whiteness as a system separates families. Why you see Black people so adamant about it is because we are the last, not the first. We are the last and we are going down fighting, fighting. But white body people, you were the first. You were the first that whiteness impacted. And that is something to really sit with and go back with and get really uncomfortable with that truth. Sally says Falk is shortened, but we don't know from what, right? Faulkner could have been a whole other thing, right? Just when you think about all of those things, all of that stripping, that is what whiteness does. And then for white body people, it's like, well, you don't got shit here. We're going to give you power over them. And then whiteness collectively takes a breath and says, whew, at least I'm not Black. It's not good. It's not good. That's not how we're going to get to liberation together. Got to sit with all of the uncomfortable truths. Taylor says, I'm tuning into my epigenetic deregulation as part of this work, as you should. Epigenetic trauma is so real. Years ago, and there's one episode, if you go all the way down, this was a few years ago, myself and someone who became a friend of mine, Saber, who is amazing, spoke about epigenetic trauma, right? And at that time, I think it was still like, frou-frou mess for people. And I was in this work, like I said, when I first started this work, it was more like a spiritual counselor selenite and sage counseling, right? And it was like, it was all incorporating like ancestral magic and ancestral veneration, et cetera. And I still do that every October for Samhain and all of that stuff. And that is what gained my popularity. I was like, white people, you need ancestral healing. And like, white people like, what? So I'm like, how can I do that? Like, and I was like, oh shit, okay, this is needed, and yada yada yada. Here I am. Yeah. But yes, you need to tune into it. Now science is onto it, so apparently it's real. But see, that's storytelling right there. Because we've been saying that for the longest, right? It is that idea whiteness gives you that white people are new every generation. But when you talk to the global majority, we know good and damn well that we are our people. So we know that epigenetic trauma lasts. We've been talking about, CPTSD from enslavement. We've been talking about, reaching back even further, going back to, my waist beads. I wear waist beads, and Yatunde blesses them at the door, no return. That's powerful. The last place one of my ancestors ever left is on my body. The sand sits on my altar. They come wet from those waters, blessed in my intentions. We know that we are our people. That is epigenetics. And I want you guys to know that too. Do not believe the lie of whiteness and supremacy culture that says you are no longer those people. You are new. You're an American now. You are still those people. You just need to touch that. You need to sit with that. You need to touch that. You need to lean into more stories. And if you are like me, who you may not have those immediate stories, right? Like you don't have those people, your folks have gone, or they don't even know, then reach out to the inhabitants of the current lands. You are indigenous to somewhere. If you are Irish, find them. Irish TikTok is amazing. Find your people. They're still your people, right? That idea that it's just your lineage is another supremacist point of view, right? That nuclear family feeds capitalism, feeds isolation, and yada, yada, yada. Because I'm really over time now. I love you guys. I love you. Find your people. Tell your stories. Sit with the uncomfortability of the truth of what's been taken from you. That is what you want to embody liberation. It can't be for nobody else. Get back to being selfish. What I was saying yesterday. It has to be for you. You want to be so goddamn free. You don't want no foot on your neck in no sort of way. You don't want to wake up with no marginalization attached to you and your body. You just want to turn around. I want to tell people my name is Desiree and I don't need to know nothing else. You don't need to know who I'm sleeping with, how able-bodied. You don't need to know nothing but my name so you can call me correct. That's it. You got to want to be free that fucking bad. And then once you get to that point, you're going to want that for every single body. You're not going to, because you're going to, every single living, breathing thing, right? I don't even like to keep, there's certain pets I won't have. I won't have birds. I'm like, birds are not meant to be caged. I don't go to the zoo. I used to love the zoo. I lived down the block from the Bronx Zoo. I cannot stomach, and I don't give a fuck how they're bred. I don't care. No, don't care. I cannot stomach seeing great things caged. That is how much I want everything free. No, I don't like it. None of it. None of it. It all activates me. All right, that's it. Michelle says, every time I pass the elderberry tree in my neighborhood, I think of Saber. If you speak with them, send them my thoughts. I absolutely will. I'll text them when I leave here. And if you'd like, let me know. And I will ask them if I could share their number with you or if you want me to, I could share your number with Saber. Tiffany said same on zoos. Yeah, it makes my ass itch. Like I sit there and I could feel the grief and they just don't seem alive. And I recognize how they were bred. That is the fucking problem. If your answer, this is that moment. If your answer was like, well, they're bred that way. That's the problem, friend. Nothing should be bred in captivity. That is the problem. Nothing should be bred in captivity. And we are all captive. So there we go. I love you. I mean it. I'm going to tell you what we're talking about tomorrow. Wait, tomorrow's Saturday. Look at me. I'm doing better. I'm doing better. Because I definitely was gonna lie to you and say, "Hey, girl, hey, we're gonna do this on Saturday," and we're not. Because tomorrow is a game. I think tomorrow is a game. I don't know. I really gotta. I need an analog calendar. Is what I need in my life. The next time we get together, be it tomorrow or Sunday, because if there's a game, I'm still going to log on. So if you want to say good morning, if you want to hang on and see my kids play baseball, I'll jump on for like 15 minutes. We say hi, because again, I want us to show up every day for each other. And it doesn't always have to be getting a lesson. You could just come kick it with me and the kids. So, but if there's not a game tomorrow, we will be talking about celebrating growth and connection together. If there is a game tomorrow, you will just be like, take me out to the ball game. You know what I'm saying? And then on Sunday, we will do the celebrating growth and connection together. Elaine says, heartfelt thank you. And I keep using the Elaine because I don't want to mess up your first name. So if you want to drop in the comments the phonetic way to say your name, so I don't screw that up, I'll happily use that. But if you're fine with Elaine, Elaine it shall be. And a heartfelt thank you to you for showing up, right? You were here yesterday and you came back. Celebrate that. Celebrate that. I am going to finish my coffee and jump on a meeting with someone that is going to help me accelerate some things for after the 100 days of community. And I look forward to that. And I look forward to continuing on with you guys. I love you. I mean it. See you tomorrow, whether it's a lesson or baseball. Bring your coffee. The kids are so freaking cute in their uniforms. Bye.